Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying with Jim Misiura. Today I'm going to do a two-part or articulated dry fly. It is going to be half of it is going to be nymph and the other half is going to be dry fly. So what I have in the vise is you want a thin wire hook, a thinner wire. You don't want a wet fly hook, you want a dry fly hook, and this is going to be the nymph portion because you don't want too much weight on there to pull your dry fly down. So I'm going to tie the nymph on the back on this part. I'm just going to use black thread, and I'm going to put that thread just a little bit on there, and then I'm going to take copper wire and we're going to tie it in, and I'm going to tie it in all the way from the top here, and this is going to the little bit of weight that's going to add to, if I wanted this to go dry, this copper wire would not affect it. Let me back that out. We're not going to go quite as far, maybe to where the thread would hang at the point of the hook, because when we're done with this section we're going to cut the barb, the bend off the hook. So for our tail I'm going to use micro Fibbets, and I don't know if I've said it before, but here we go. Craft Smart. This is a paintbrush. I got this from the hobby store. I believe it was Michael's, and you got 3 of them for like 12 bucks. Look at all of the micro Fibbets you got. You got a 1-incher, which this is, a 2-incher, and a 3-incher. So you have micro Fibbets for your life. And look for the different colors that you want. You don't want artist paintbrushes because they're way too expensive. They're like 12 bucks for one. So I'm just going to take like 3 of these. Going to measure the tail on about half the length of the body. We're going to tie this in. We're going to keep it right there, right where it would hang at the point. And there's our tail. Keep that wire a little bit on the side there so I don't... there we go. It's actually tied to my side. We'll go ahead and tie those in and trim that off. Now, for our body of our nymph, we're going to use, this is, you can use brown floss, but this is braided shoelace that I took apart. We're going to use that for the body. I really love this stuff. I use it all the time. You can actually use this and make a shuck with it. If you're just making a straight dry fly, you can make a shuck with it. But if you go on my playlist for materials, you can see how I obtain this. It's very simple. You just take a braided shoelace like the ones you get on hiking boots, and just go ahead and take that apart, unbraid it, and we're going to tie this in. There we go. And we're going to bring that thread forward. Now we're going to wrap this. Whenever I use this or floss, it's always a good idea to get some moisture on it to keep them under control. And you could even just rotate your vise if you have a rotary vise. And I don't have my bobbin cradle in there, so I have to unwind. When you're not using your bobbin cradle, it gets in the way a lot. I'm going to go back, kind of make a little bit of a taper here. Not that it's going to really matter a whole lot. Now I want to kind of flatten it out more so that it doesn't get too fat right there. There we go. And we're going to tie this off. And we're going to trim off that excess. And when I lay it to the side, I wet it again. when it dries it'll all be nice in one piece. Now I'm going to take my rib and I'm going to counter wrap it for the same reasons that you would counter wrap a pheasant tail, is to help protect the fibers, because a trout's teeth are sharp. And we're going to go ahead and tie that off. And you can just break it off when you have extra fine wire. Now I'm going to give that a whip finish. Put a little bit of head cement on there. With this you could actually put head cement on the whole thing if you'd like. But I'm just going to put some on the, we'll call it the head. And now I'm going to take it out and I'm going to use wire cutters and I'm going to cut it off so that you can't see the, put that on the side for just a second. Now I'm going to take a standard number 14 dry fly hook. We're going to put that in. And for this portion I'm going to use Cahill yellow thread. We're going to get our base on there, and you're going to attach the rear section like you would with just about any articulated type fly. I'm going to use 4X tippet. And here I have it strung on my 4X tippet. And it really doesn't matter if the hook is, the eye of this hook is going to be up or down, but you kind of want it down, just like this. So we're going to go ahead and secure this. Put several wraps in there, and then you could do like that to, you can pull it to adjust it. I like to tend to keep them a little bit further so that it will hang and not be tight. You don't want it tight. You kind of want it to hang in the water, so you want to leave a little bit of space. And that little piece of mono that's there, that's not going to affect the trout at all. Go ahead, you could fold it back and wrap it down again. Now that's not going to come off. Now we're going to come back to where it would hang at the barb. And we're going to start by putting our body in. This is going to be a sulfur, so I'm going to get my sulfur orange dubbing. This is super fine sulfur orange. And we're going to dub the body. One thing with superfine, you can really get a really tight noodle. We're not putting any tail on this, remember, because the nymph is simulating the dry fly being stuck in the shuck. We're going to bring that up about halfway to 3/4. Put just a little bit more of the dubbing on there. Bring that up 1 or 2 more wraps, so we're about 3/4 up. Now for the wing, you can use whatever kind of wing, you know, you can use quill wings or whatever you want, but I'm going to make this a loop wing. And this loop wing, it's a little bit yellowish, or cream, you know, like a cream. A cream would be great because that's basically, the sulfur wings are kind of cream colored, but this is also a shoelace. Part of the shoelace, and it's basically just Antron. The rear section part of the shoelace, that was more of a cotton fiber, and this is more, or a floss fiber, and this is more of a Antron fiber. So we're going to tie that in. Okay, then we're going to make the loop. Size your loop up. It should go, you know, your loop should be to about the end of the body. We're going to tie this in. Whoop. Look at that. I got the tail from the nymph. To get that out of the way there. There we go. And now you could go ahead and use regular hackle on here and wind it regular Catskill style. I got one wild hair there that doesn't want to cut. There we go. You can take a regular hackle and wind that Catskill style, you know, like so. That would be actually pretty good. But I am going to go ahead and use some CDC on there. We want a cream colored CDC. So I'm going to use this from Spirit River Pale Morning Dun CDC. And these CDC stems are very thin, so I'm not going to have to make a loop with it. I'm going to be able to just wrap this stem and get my desired effect. So here's my CDC feather, and you can see how small that stem is. I'm going to tie it in by the tip because the tips, you know, the stem is tapered. Just kind of stand that up like so. The only thing with tying it in this way is you really need to have that really skinny stem because it adds too much bulk otherwise. If you don't have a real skinny stem, I would say to use a dubbing loop and use your dubbing block to make that hackle. Go ahead and put my hackle pliers on the end there, and I'm going to stroke everything towards the rear as I'm doing it. The CDC just kind of adds more kind of lifelike, maybe legs, all this trying to squirm out of the shuck kind of material. And you can see how that stem is getting thicker there. And I'm going to end it here. Maybe bring it to the top, but I'm going to try to trap a couple more of those CDC fibers in there. Oop. I'm going to cut that stem off. You have to be careful. Using a loop would probably actually be easier. I'm going to clean up that head there. Just trying to get all of those fibers to lay back so I could have a nice clean head. There we go. Going to go ahead and tie that off. Take my whip finish. Now before I put any head cement on there, this bottom is nice. I'm going to take all these real long ones. Let me widen that out for you a bit. Take these real long ones and just break them. You don't want to cut them because then you'll have a right angle, and having those, you know, just break them off and having those different lengths is nice. Get back in here. I'm going to take my bodkin needle and kind of shape that wing there just a little better. And then the last thing you could do is take a little piece of Velcro. You see that Velcro just grabs everything, and just kind of pull out any trapped fibers. Go ahead and put that head cement on there now. I rotate it because I look for the best spot to get my brush in there. And here we have an articulated sulfur nymph combination, dry fly nymph combination. So hope that you learned something from this video. Hope that you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Please visit my sponsors. Let them know that I sent you. Leave comments, questions, suggestions. If you would like to purchase this or any flies that I make, go to etsy.com/shop/theflymanjim. And if you don't see it, just let me know with a message through Etsy and tell me what you want, and we'll figure it out. And most of all, thank you very much for watching my videos.